What's up guys, ArchAngel Manga here and you are watching my top 15 Seinen Manga titles of 2015. I decided to do 15 titles in this because I've read more Seinen Manga, in the year since I last made this video. Obviously last year's was a top 10, but because Seinen Manga is kind of like my forte and it's kind of respective of my tastes, I decided to put more manga in this list rather than having an honourable mentions, because all the titles that I'm going to be mentioning just deserve to be in this list and don't deserve the dishonourable mention of being, an honourable mention, I guess you could say. So yeah, there's going to be some new additions from last year's list, obviously because in the year since I've last made it, I've read more manga. So yeah, obviously I've got 15 manga to get through and kind of give you a bit of a synopsis about, so I'm going to try to get through this video as quickly as possible. So yeah, let's get started. Coming in at number 15, we have Shiro Masamune's Appleseed. Basically a story about Jin and Newton Briareus, who are two ex-LAPD agents who basically survived the Third World War. They're basically roaming around what's left of Earth in a dystopian future trying to survive. And they come across a city called Olympus, which is basically an attempt to rebuild human civilization. But all is not right with this city in this utopian world. Basically, Shadow. Yeah, it's filled with bioroids, which are basically genetically engineered humans, and it's full of political turmoil, as was the world before even the war. So it's an excellent manga. It's quite short as well. I haven't read Ghost in the Shell, so obviously this is only the Shiro Masamune work that I've read so far. So maybe that'll top this, I don't know. But it's really, really good, and the artwork is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend this. Coming in at number 14, we have Inio Asano's What a Wonderful World. It's basically a series of 10 short stories dealing with the everyday problems that people face in life, whether you're young, old, middle-aged, just really everyday problems that people face, but with a bit of a supernatural twist. And each story kind of basically merges into the next, so there's like each story intersects, and these characters from previous stories that appear in like the backgrounds of later stories, because it's all set in the same town, and it's just absolutely brilliant. There's no sort of ongoing plot towards this or anything like that. It's just people who are bullied, or people who have got mixed in with gangs, or people who are coming to terms with the fact that they feel suicidal and things like that. It's really dark, but there's some parts that are really uplifting as well. It's a real roller coaster of emotions, and Inio Asano is just an absolute master at displaying everyday people in a slice of life situation. I also highly recommend Soul Landing as well, but personally I think What a Wonderful World is a little bit better. An absolutely excellent manga told through the eyes of everyday people in just a Japanese city. Highly recommend it. Coming in at number 13, we have a very dark manga, and that's the Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service. Basically about a group of Buddhist students who set up a business where basically their clients are dead, and basically their clients are dead bodies whose souls are still trapped inside them, and the only way to release them is to fulfill that person's last wish. Obviously for monetary gain, obviously, but things either go a little bit wrong, or things get a little bit too dark, and the main characters are really, really weird. It's such a dark, twisted manga, and it's going to be released in an omnibus edition at some point as well, because these single editions are vastly out of print, so I highly recommend picking it up when they get released. Coming in at numero 12, I think we're at 15, 14, 13, 12, yes. We have Tai Matsumoto's Tekon Kinkri. A really, really unique manga centering around two orphan boys called Black and White. This is Black on the cover here, and White, I believe, is on the back. Yep, there he is. That's White. And basically, they're two orphan boys who live in a town called Treasure Town in Japan. It's assumed to be Japan. And they're dealing with they're just basically, Black sees Treasure Town as his town, and him and Black and White basically try to push out the invading yakuza, the street gangs, and things like that. And it's basically about two disillusioned boys who have just gone to such an extreme point of delinquency that there's just no return for them. But you're also kind of rooting for them at the same time, because the town is all they've got, and all they've got is each other as well. And it's told through the eyes of children who are just affected by violence, and the stinking, rotten world in an urban metropolis that's around them. and it's told just brilliantly with a really unique art style as well. Highly recommend this. Coming in at number 15, 14, 13, 12, 11. We're at number 11. We have Ikigami, The Ultimate Limit. A really unique manga. I guess you could say a lot of these manga, all the manga that's in this list are going to be unique in their own way anyway. But this one's very unique in the fact that it's set in a dystopian alternate reality of Japan, where the Japanese government runs, like it's a totalitarian government, where basically they kill one of their citizens every day to make the entire population value their own quality of life. And basically it centers around this guy here, who was essentially a death messenger. He basically goes to the chosen people who are chosen to die every day and delivers their death papers like 24 hours before they're due to expire, and just basically says to them, right, you've got 24 hours left to live, just don't take it for granted. You've got 24 hours, do something. And it mostly centers around the people who are chosen. Like it's like an episodic sort of story. Like when each volume gets, there's two stories of like two separate people who become Ikigami, which are basically the chosen people who are due to die. And basically it focuses on their last 24 hours of life and what they do with it. Some people just do really effed up things like raping people and killing people, but some people do some really nice things, and it's just. Again, it's another roller coaster of emotions, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. This is brilliant. Okay, now we are in the top 10. So, yeah, this is a hard list to do. Personal favourite of mine. You hear me talk about it a lot, and that's 7 Billion Needles by Nobuaki Tadano. If I had to compare this to something, I would compare it to Parasite. If you like Parasite, then you'll really love this, because it's basically centers around Hikaru Takabe, this girl here. And she basically gets inhabited by an alien being that doesn't have any physical form, called Horizon. And Horizon is looking for a being that's basically similar to him, called Maelstrom, which basically is basically the opposite of him. Like Horizon basically exists to preserve life, whereas Maelstrom exists to destroy life. And it's not like necessarily good versus evil. It's just two alien beings with just directives. And Hikaru, a normal human girl, gets embroiled in this because her and Horizon basically become one of the same being, because Horizon accidentally destroys her body when he arrives on Earth. So in order to save her, he needs to merge with her. So it's just brilliant. It's almost like Shinichi and Migi, but told in like just a short sort of story. Highly recommend this. It's absolutely brilliant. Coming in at number 9, I believe we're at number 9. We have Kaoru Mori's A Bride Story. Now this is a really, really different manga. Funnily enough, a lot of people are quite surprised when they find out that this is a seinen, especially considering the subject matter that it depicts. And it's basically about marriage in I guess you could say it's like around Turkey, sort of. It's like Turkish nomadic tribes in like the 19th century, and there's like an English sort of anthropologist who's going there to study them and like study their way of life. And the first few volumes centre around this girl here, Amir, and she's basically a young bride, a 20-year-old bride who's sent to a neighbouring village to marry into that village. But when she gets there, she finds that her bride is like, I think 8 years her junior. So, not her bride, her husband is 8 years her junior. So like he's 12 and like she's 20, and it's about them sort of like trying to get to know each other when there's obviously a massive like age gap. And that sounds kind of wrong from obviously like a Western perspective, but it's actually told really beautifully. And it's basically about them sort of, kind of building their relationship and like, her getting to know like his family and things like that. It's so beautiful. And it's kind of told through the first few volumes, it's told kind of episodic, but then like the main character becomes this anthropologist, this Mr. Smith guy, and he basically travels from village to village, basically learning about their way of life. It's really, really beautiful, and the artwork is stunning. Highly recommend this. Okay, so coming in at number 8. We have a new addition to this list, and that is Vinland Saga. Basically, a epic tale of revenge. I guess if you could compare it to anything, it's like Berserk set in reality. Basically, it centers around this young Danish lad here called Thorfinn, and he's basically on a quest for revenge against a mercenary called Askeladd who killed his father. But it ain't just about that. It's that story intertwined with another story set in reality of the war between Denmark and England, and basically Denmark trying to usurped the English monarchy to basically you know instill their prince as the next English king. And it's absolutely brilliant. For the first few volumes I wasn't really too keen on it, but reading up to volume 4 of these hardback covers is where it absolutely got brilliant. This is a brilliant seinen series. And the artwork progresses really well as well, because it went from a weekly serialization to a monthly serialization. You can see that shift in art quality really, really vividly. So I highly recommend anybody check this out. As Vinland Saga. Coming in next, we have hold on, where are we now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Coming in at number 7, we have Battle Royale. Anybody who has experienced any iteration of this story knows how great Battle Royale is, whether you've read the novel, seen the live action movies, or read the manga. I, for one, haven't read the novel yet, but I've seen the live action and obviously read the manga. The manga is one of my favourite seinen manga of all time. Just the artwork, story, the characters, everything about this manga I just find captivating. And you know, Shuya Nanahara is just basically the pacifist in the middle of, you know, a violent situation. He doesn't want to kill anybody, and you know, he goes through the entire story, you know, trying so desperately to save, you know, his fellow classmates from, you know, certain doom, because, you know, you're in a life and death battle where only one person can survive, and you know, all his classmates are falling. You know, his closest friends are just dying all around him, and he's just, you know, he's still trying to stay positive throughout the entire thing. And it's just a really emotional and awesome ride. I absolutely love Battle Royale, and I highly recommend anybody to read it. Okay, so now I believe we're in the top. No, we're in 6. We're in number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, coming in number 6. We have Now Kurosawa's Monster. I absolutely love this, and I'm glad they're reprinting these in the Ultimate Editions, or not Ultimate Editions, Perfect Editions, should I say. Basically, it's about Dr. Tenma, Kenzo Tenma, as you can see on the front there, and he basically saves a little boy. He basically operates on him after he's been shot in the head. But this little boy grows up to be a serial killer. And yeah, he basically has to stop him. You know, it's like, you know, he feels responsible for it because obviously he saved the little boy's life. And it's like a game of cat and mouse. It's just absolutely brilliant, a brilliant psychological thriller. You know, I highly recommend anybody to read this, and anything by Naoki Urasawa for that matter. Okay, so now we're in the top 5, I believe. Yes, we are. Going to number 5, something that was an honourable mention last year, and I regret putting it as an honourable mention last year because it really truly deserves to be, you know, in a list of the top 10 or top greatest seinen manga of all time, because it truly is. And that's Takiko Inoue's Vagabond, a fictional retelling of the life of Miyamoto Musashi, who was a real-life samurai, and basically documents his early sort of boyhood, from being just, you know, a village miscreant who was just, you know, regarded by his peers and, you know, the adults in his village as a beast, to becoming the world's most renowned samurai. You know, refining the two-sword style of sword fighting, and just basically, it's a story of one man against, you know, a time of you know, political and economic strife, because, you know, basically the time where this is set, it's set in feudal Japan, where samurai are basically, you know, out of work essentially. And you get lots of ronin samurai, you know, basically masterless samurai, and that's who Miyamoto Musashi is. So he's basically a man with the instincts of an animal, and basically he refines that and becomes a warrior, and he's just absolutely brilliant. Basically, you know, like the emotional and mental, you know, profiling that he goes through in order to, you know, become, you know, essentially like the spirit of a samurai. It's so good. The artwork is possibly some of the greatest artwork you will ever experience in any manga ever. This is absolutely sensational. I guess I could just show you like one little page here. As you can see there, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, it's one of my favourite manga of all time, hands down. Okay, so coming at number 4, a new addition to the list, and that is Berserk by Kentaro Miura. I was quite skeptical when I first started reading this. The first 4 volumes, or first 3 or 4 volumes, were kind of slow, but then when it gets into the Golden Age arc, this is when the story really, really kicks in. Similarly with Vinland Saga, compared Vinland Saga to this, this is essentially an epic story of revenge against one man who basically ruined his life. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, because if I told you who the main antagonist of this was, it would be kind of a spoiler for the Golden Age arc, which, you know, you really need to just experience Berserk. And, you know, Guts is just such a formidable guy. You know, he truly is against the odds. You know, he's basically trying to fight off demons every night because he gets branded as a sacrifice. So his soul essentially belongs to the demon world, and he's basically in a permanent struggle between living and being consumed by evil. And it's just absolutely amazing. Again, the artwork in this is absolutely brilliant, breathtaking artwork. Kentaro Miura is a brilliant story writer and artist, and I highly recommend anybody to read Berserk. Okay, so we're finally in the top 3. This was really difficult to narrow down, considering that pretty much all the manga in this list are just massively enjoyable, and you know, for the fact that they're in the top 15 list, you know, it kind of speaks for how great they are, and you know, how high I hold them in, you know, how I hold them in such high regard. But obviously I had to order the manga in some kind of way, and I guess you could say the top 3 is basically like my joint number 1, because I just love them equally. And coming at number 3, we have Akira. For anybody who's seen the film, I highly recommend reading the manga, because it goes into so much more depth than the film does. And you know, minor characters that are in the film, that, you know, who you don't really know who they are major players in the manga. You know, the manga is just, I mean, considering that you get like 6 volumes that are this thick, you know, you can pretty much, you know, they must have had a really hard time narrowing it down into like a 2-hour long film. Because there's just so much that goes on in this, and so many epic things that happen in this that you just don't get to see in the film. The film is basically a heavily diluted version of the manga. The manga is just so deep, questions so many different morals, and, you know, like the delinquency of youth, and just so many different things. It's hard to talk about, because, you know, I'd have to reread it through again and like do a thorough review of this to you know, because I think it's been about a good 4 or 5 years since I've read this, and it's just phenomenal. I highly recommend anybody to read Akira. You know, you don't really need me to explain it to you. You know what it's about already. It's a god-like manga. Katsuhiro Otomo is just a genius, absolute genius. Okay, so coming at number 2, something you're probably all expecting. I bet you guys already know, if you're familiar with my tastes already, what my, you know, number 2 and number 1 manga are going to be. Number 2, I have 20th Century Boys, Naoki Urasawa. Basically, a group of kids predicts how the world is going to end, and then when they grow up, you know, those things kind of start coming into fruition and start actually happening. So they have to basically, you know, save the world like how they predicted when they were younger. And it's basically a race against time, you know, to basically save the world before it actually ends. And it's just absolutely brilliant. It's told in such a realistic way. It basically crosses generations. It starts in the 60s and then like ends like, you know, like the 2020s or something like that, or like 2018 or something like that. I think it ends. So it really spans, you know, a really long period of time. You know, again, Naoki Urasawa is just a genius when it comes to, you know, psychological thrillers, or, you know, like, so, you know, just thrillers. It's just a really good thriller with like elements of sci-fi, you know, like supernatural elements as well. It's just a brilliant manga, and just because of its length, you know, it's like 24 volumes if you include the epilogue 21st Century Boys. You know, I don't think that's just sway you away from reading it, because at no point in this manga does it feel like it drags. I just highly recommend anybody to read it. Now, all you guys know what my number 1 is going to be, so I'm gonna make you guys wait. Parasite, Hitoshi Iwaki. 2 years in a row, it's already got it's still got, you know, my number 1 spot. What's really made me fall in love with this manga all over again is the anime, because Madhouse are doing such a great job with the anime, and the manga is just, you can tell from start to finish that Hitoshi Iwaki knew exactly what he wanted to do with this story. He had it planned out from the start, because it's got a perfect, it begins perfectly and it ends perfectly. The ending of this manga is one of my favourite endings of all time for any manga, and it's just brilliant. It's basically you know, about basically alien parasites that fall to Earth, and you know, as parasites, you know, as the name suggests, they need to take over a human host, and these parasites basically take over the human brain, take over the entire head actually, and they're basically trying to you know, survive. That's like their one sort of primary directive, their one sort of goal. Their purpose for living is just to survive. But these parasites grow smarter and smarter and smarter and start, you know, blending in with human society. And it's basically the main character, Shinichi. His parasite failed in taking his head and took his arm instead, as you can see in the cover there. Took his right arm, and it's basically these two beings with completely different moral outlooks on life and the purpose of life, and you know, the sacredness of life. Two completely opposite outlooks on those things existing in the same body, and there's always you know, coming to logheads and butting heads over, you know, sacrificing certain things, and it is just a masterpiece of a manga. And I would love to see more of Hitoshi Iwaki's art, you know, art and manga get published in English. And yeah, I can't praise this enough. Everybody knows, if you've read it or you're watching the anime, you know how great it is. But yeah, this is a difficult list. That's been my top 10, no, not my top 10, my top 15 favourite seinen manga. Probably next year there'll be a top 20, most likely, because I'm obviously going to be reading a lot more seinen manga, so I've got, you know, my backlog and stuff to get through. So, you know, put a comment in the comment section below of what your top 10 or top 15 or even top 20 seinen manga are. I would love to know, you know, what other things I can read, or you know, what else is published in English that, you know, I might, you know, want to try out. You know, recommend me stuff, and if you want to do a video response to this, you know, you're more than welcome to. I'd like to see other people, you know, getting involved, and yeah, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. See you later.